how I first heard about Healeys. You know, I was still in virtually short pants, and elder brothers were talking about Squealys, and I had no idea what they were talking about. But this is the mid-1950s. Then my eldest brother, Anthony, he had Healey 100, an early one, in about 1960. We were both still playing rugby in those days, and we'd go off and play in Bedford in his Healey. A few years later, I was working in St Neots, and the senior partner bought one of the last Healey 3000s. Girlfriend's father, about the same time, he also bought a Healey. It was about 1967. I was then getting into cars, driving minis and that sort of thing is concerned, and in 1970 or thereabouts I bought an MGB, but I was always wanted to get a Healey for the reasons which I've said. Saw a number of Healeys. This is 1972 now. My then wife had somebody at school. She knew I was looking for a Healey, and apparently her boyfriend had one. He brought it up and we looked at it at Luton, and I bought it on the spot. So this is an early 3000 BJ8. Which came out in October 1963. This was built in February come March of 1964, and then they introduced modifications to that type of model, revised rear suspension and various other tweaks, until the Healey was phased out. The last one was built properly in late 1967, and then the very last one came out in March 1968. And apparently that one is still around. I drove as an everyday car. I used to commute in it in the late 1970s, and then it started falling to pieces. I could actually see the roadway through the driver's footwell, and bits fell off. A sill fell off when I was going down the motorway where I was working in Luton. So it had to come off the road, and nothing much happened until the mid-1980s when I took it to bits and had the chassis re-welded, etc. So I then had a rolling chassis. It languished in my mother's garage, which is just over the road there where Brother Mike now lives. Finally I bit the bullet. School fees were over, etc., etc., and it went to an outfit in Warwick to have it restored, new panels, rebuilt engine yet again. I've been driving it since then, not on a daily basis, but I've done about 48,000 miles since 2012. So it's been to Europe 2 or 3 times. It's a used car, and I think that's the way to enjoy it rather than just looking at it. I can do sort of minor mechanics. I rebuilt the engine a couple of times. Not very successfully. There's still lots of black smoke coming out of it, so that wasn't very successful. But it's been maintained by somebody called Murray Scott Nelson up in Scarborough, would you believe? And every time they breathe on it, it seems to go that much better. For the sake of reliability, we've got electronic ignition and an electronic fuel pump, and that makes, I don't know, the world of difference. And apart from that, it is virtually original as far as the spec is concerned. It hasn't been souped up. It's got a fast road cam. It's got hardened valve seats so that you can use unleaded. You can use unleaded anyway, but you don't hammer it when you've got normal type valves, or valve seats. When I bought it, funnily enough, it got a full blue colour on it and some other sort of white colour underneath. So that all came off and back to the original colour. It had disc wheels originally, and I had to convert it to wire wheels, which I think are much nicer. Unfortunately, these cars do suffer from scuttle shake, because they've got a big, heavy windscreen. It still does that. It does rattle and shake a bit, but at the moment, it is driving superbly. It's great fun to drive. I know it's reliable, and it's just good fun. I think it's the look of the car, which is, in a way, timeless. There's also the question of noise as well, which, you know, straight six, etc., the noise which sort of is a bit like the sound of a Merlin engine. It gets the hairs on the back of your neck pricked up. Yeah, it's a timeless design. We go to shows, etc., and lots of people say, oh, well, I wish I could afford one of these. My father used to have one, my brother had one, etc., etc. So it's actually a very popular looking car. It's a timeless sort of 1950s, come 60s type shape, and you fall in love with it.